Welcome to Board Certified, expert interview episodes about medical licensing exams and healthcare careers. I'm Tyler, founder of Achievable, and we offer affordable adaptive online prep courses for the USMLE Step 1, MCAT, PTCE, NPTE, and others. Each course contains everything you need to succeed, including comprehensive study guides, video lessons, thousands of practice questions powered by our memory enhancing algorithm, and full length practice exams. You can get a free trial of any course by going to achievable.me. And if you like it, be sure to use the code podcast to save 10%. Now, let's get started. Today, we've got Dr. Hashmi with us today and would love for you to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Dr. Maheen Hashmi. I graduated medical school last year from Delhi University of Health Sciences, Karachi, Pakistan. I gave all my USMLE Step 1, 2, and 3 within a single academic year, along with my final year medical school exams. So I graduated top of my class with 3.7 CGPA. I then applied for the match. I dual applied in internal medicine and family medicine together. I received a great number of interviews, and then I successfully matched in internal medicine at University of Alabama. So I will be starting my residency next week, hopefully.
Yeah, fantastic. And that was something that really intrigued me when we were talking is you passed all three steps of the USMLE in a single academic year, which is crazy. Most of the people that I talk to spend just like 6 months to 9 months on the step one, but they're also usually doing it during school. When you were doing the USMLE in 1 year, were you done with school or had you finished school or were you still in school at that
No,
point?
I was in school. So when I gave my step one, I was in my fourth year of medical school. When I gave step two, I had my final year exams 2 weeks after my step two. And step three, I gave post graduation 2 months after that because we weren't ECFMG certified. And in order to give step three, we have to be ECFMG certified. For that, we need a medical degree. So I couldn't take an undergrad, but step one and two, I took undergrad.
Great. Yeah, and so let's talk about that. Basically, I want you to start by going through like the timeline. When were you starting to prepare for the step one, and how long did you prepare for the step one?
So that's a funny story. So until my fourth year, I was the most chaotic kid ever. I used to go out, have fun, play sports. I wasn't much of a studious student, frankly. I didn't like to study at all. I feel that wasn't my sort of forte. During my fourth year, my mother, she called me. She was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, that's a great question. What do I want to do? I don't know. So she was like, figure out your path. And I was like, okay. And that was the time when I started searching for the US pathway and UK pathway. And I somehow landed on the USMLE. So when I was watching my friends, all of them were taking a long time for step one, two, and three, respectively. So I was like, okay, why are they taking a lot of time? Why? What's in it that is so long? So when I started studying for step one, I found out that it's just the right approach. USMLE is only going to ask you a certain set amount of topics that we call as high yield for USMLE. They are not going to quiz you on some idiopathic disease which nobody has ever heard of. They're going to ask you repetitive questions and those questions which they would want you to know in terms of USMLE. So I figured that out very early on during my preparation. So I only focused on the high yield stuff. And after that, I started making my own study schedule. So that's what I did. I then, did UWorld, First Aid. I did those two resources by heart. And then when 70% of UWorld was done, I went on and gave my step one. So I feel that step one is much more of like first year, second year medical school stuff, what we already know. But I feel the right approach is to just focus on the high yield stuff, what they are asking you in terms of topics. And then if you're consistently scoring good in your assessments and you will blog, then I don't feel that you need more time on step one, especially if it is pass fail right now. There is no point in giving 9 to 12 months on step one when it is just pass and fail. So just pass the exam, move to step two. But of course, if you don't have basic core knowledge and if you feel that you need to build on step one to get a good step two score, then take your time. But if you feel that you're in the right track, then I don't feel that you need a lot of time for step one.
Yeah, so you talked about how you're focused only on the high yield topics.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you were able to do that because you were taking this exam later in medical school, or do you feel like everyone should pursue this strategy? And just
I
ignoring the
feel
low yield topics, I feel like it's like a corollary to
Oh,
that.
yeah, that's a really great question. I feel I was able to do that because I was in later year of medical school. I was in my fourth year of medical school, so I knew the basics already. But for someone who's starting early on in their medical school, first year, second year, I will not recommend them to only focus on the high yield. It is really important for them to understand every aspect of the course because they're in the learning phase and you need to learn everything. So learn everything, give it time. You still have got time. They're really long years ahead of you before you finish medical school. So you've got ample amount of time. Where I was standing, I did not have time. I was graduating within a year. I needed to have my step scores locked in before I apply for residency. So if you've got time, focus on everything. But if you're in later years of medical school, then I just feel that because you already know a lot of things, there's no point in going and revisiting and memorizing the basics of it again and again. Just focus on the how you'll pass the exam.
Yeah, and I think also, is your timeline more typical of an IMG, or do most IMGs still take the USMLE on like kind of the American schedule where they're taking it first, second year, they're taking step one, third year, you're taking the step two CK, that kind of thing?
So that's interesting because over the time, this trend has evolved into students giving their steps undergrad. Before that, like before me, if you go back 2 to 3 years, a lot of people were doing their USMLEs when they were enrolled in their home country residency. So they were already in their post-graduation residency, and then they were applying for USMLE steps. Main reason was the financial resources of it. They wanted to earn first that they can apply for the USMLEs and all. But now we know that how competitive it has got all around the globe. So your graduation is a very big score. It's a very big cutoff for a lot of programs. So I think now a lot of students are taking it undergrad, but before 2 to 3 years, everybody was doing it in either their internship year or the residency.
Great. Yeah, and then I'd love to talk a little bit about just if you could walk through how long you spent on each test. So, how long did you spend focusing on the high yield USMLE step one topics, and then for the step two, that's scored, so it sounded like that was more important, and then the step three.
Yeah, for step one, I didn't it in 2 months. I know people are like, "What? How did you take it in 2 months? It is not doable in 2 months." I was like, watch me do it. It is perfectly doable in 2 months. So what I focused on in those 2 months was just the URL and first aid because I've already read first aid a lot of times during my medical school. So I felt that I didn't need to go through it again. So I directly started with URL. I started solving blocks randomly on a timed mode. And once I was scoring 75% to 80%, I was like, okay, let me take an assessment. So I gave an assessment when my 60 to 70% UL was done. I got a passing score in that. I gave another assessment. I got a passing score in that. So I went on and gave the exam. But I understand that it differs for a lot of other people. They sometimes need to brush on their basics, and every exam is different. Every human being is different. So if they feel that they need more time for step one, take your time. It is better than going on and failing the exam. A fail won't look good, but a delay in the exam will still be understandable. Focus on that. In terms of USMLE Step 1, Achievable also has a great Step 1 course for that. So look into that as well. It is one of the excellent resources that I've come across recently. Aside of that, in terms of Step 2, it took me a long time for Step 2 because it was a scoring exam and I wanted to have a good score so that I qualify for most of the programs as the average Step 2 score has risen to 250. So you need to be above 250 in order to be considered a great score. And I wanted to have that sort of score. So it took me around 6 to 7 months for step two. Because I had my finals also kicking in. I had to pass that exam as well and step two exam as well. So it was a lot for me. It was daunting. And then we have to take the OAT exam as well, which is an English proficiency test for ECFMG certification. I took that as well. And for that, you need 2 weeks. Post step two, so step two was more clinical knowledge based. It is more what you learn in your final year of medical school, the application. So it was very easy for me in terms to understand it. So I will advise everyone to take step one during their foundation years and then take step two during the final year because it'll be really easy for you to integrate that sort of concept because medicine throughout the world is same. There isn't any much of a difference, and most of the times we are following the American guidelines as well. It's not that different. Take it consecutively, take it together. It's going to be easier for you in terms of understanding it. And plus, you're in that study flow. You're like going back to exams. You're that momentum to give exams. Post graduation, it becomes really hard for you to get back on track because you're so burnt out. You're like, oh, I want to chill, but then you don't have time. So it really becomes really hard for you to go through. For step three, take it as soon as possible after step two.
So, and then for step three, when do you want to take the step three compared to the step two?
For step three, it's just take it as soon as possible for step two. And the reason is that step three is 2 day exam. So day one is like a step one type exam, and day two is more of a CCS cases and step two exam. So the closer you're going to take it to step two, the better your exam will be because it is just similar in terms of the exam pattern. So take it as soon as possible after step two because of maximum memory retention. You won't be able to forget a lot of things. Some of the concepts will be really fresh in your head. I took it in 2 weeks. So I took step three, post step two, like in 2 weeks. I did CCS cases and revised my step two algorithms and went on and gave the exam. So for me, it felt really similar to step two. So give it as soon as possible, but take a lot of time for step two because that score really matters a lot.
Yeah, that's great. And then one of the things that I noticed was you were talking about how at the beginning you don't like studying. So doing any of this is a lot of studying, right? So how did you get yourself to study for these tests?
That's really interesting. You know what? There was this classmate of mine, and when I told him my plan that, oh, I'm going to apply for a US residency, I'm going to go take my exams, he laughed at my face. He's going to like, you study? He made that face and he said it to me. And I was like, wait, what? That was an ego hit. I was like, you give me 1 year and I'll prove you wrong. So for me, that was something, an ego hit that got me. I understand for person to person, it might be different. But for me, everybody looked down on me for in terms of the study aspect because they thought that she's some kid who's always out, never seen her in the library. She's always out with her friends, roaming around. She's not in the studies. She won't be able to make it. It's really hard. It's really tough. The funny thing is, they went unmatched, and I matched. So that's the funny thing. But yeah, I think in order to study, you just need to have a strong set of determination, knowing that this is your time. I call this phase golden time. These 3 to 4 years can either make your career or it can break your career. That is the only time you're gonna have to get into a new direction in your life. And if you're gonna waste that, then it's not gonna come back and nobody's going to help you after that. Study with that sort of determination that I'm all alone in this. Nobody's going to come get out of me. I'm no damsel in distress. And yeah, I think that is the biggest enough motivation.
Yeah, I love that. And I think pretty much anybody can do these things if they put the work in, right? Or a better way of putting it is that anybody can learn how to put the work in. And it's a skill and it requires discipline, but it's something that you can really change about yourself if you want to. I think that's always the
Yeah,
hardest part.
I really agree with what you say because I always say this that without commitment, you can never start, but without consistency, you can never finish. So, consistency is really important. It's about the same discipline, getting up early, doing the same thing over and over again, and with time, expecting results out of it. So, consistency is what is important. People are not consistent enough. They may be committed enough, but they're not consistent enough. And you cannot go to the finish line without being consistent. So that's important.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, and I think the other thing I wanted to follow up on about studying, it's yes, it's about the consistency of the schedule and things like that. And maybe we could talk about how you set up your study schedule a little bit, but it's also tactics and like what kind of study tactics you use. Let's start with the schedule actually first. So, how did you build once you were like, I'm going to study a lot and I'm going to prove this guy wrong? How did you set up your study schedule?
All right. So for my study schedule, I will say try to identify what your weaknesses and what your strengths are first. And for that, do 2 blocks of your world without revising anything, without doing anything, and then seeing which questions are you getting more wrong. Is it the cardiology question? Is it the rheumatology question? Is it the anatomy questions that you're not able to figure out? So first, identify your strengths and weaknesses, where you need more time and where you don't, and then make a study regimen. So I was that person who could study back to back for 14 hours straight without any interruption. I understand that people cannot do that. They need time in between their study schedule. So do whatever works best for you, but try to first identify where you stand in terms of strengths and weaknesses and then do that. So what I did was that I made 4 blocks of UWorld per day and I did back to back. After doing those 4 blocks of UWorld, I reviewed them. And that is why I was able to complete 70% of UWorld within 2 months. And whatever questions I did wrong, I then tried to understand the concept behind it through first aid by reading the UWorld explanation, sometimes going through the Amboss Q Bank articles as well and then understanding the concept of it and then moving forward. So that was my how I studied for step 1. But again, because my anatomy was strong, I did not take much time on memorizing the arteries, the veins. But if you feel that you need more time on it, invest more time on it. So I think a lot of students make this mistake is that they try to copy each other's study schedule. Like you're different, I'm different. I can memorize things within 2 hours. For you, it can take around 12 hours. It's completely fine. So do not copy study schedules. Make your own study schedule based on where you're good at and where you're not good at, which needs more time and which needs more revision in the end. Because sometimes, even if you're done doing blocks, you feel like that you're going to forget it after a certain amount of time. Then try to revise that sort of topic into your study schedule as well. So revision is also important. People just try to get done with the topics as soon as possible. But that's not the thing. You need to retain it as well. How are you going to produce that on your exam day? For that, you need to revise as well. Revise those topics which you feel that you're going to forget really easily. So all of that is those are the tricks to make a smart study schedule.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think also the other part of the scheduling aspect is the desire for kind of you to have a little bit of your own time and to keep your sanity. So, how did you fit that in while you were studying, or did you not? And you were like, I'm going to give up on my sports and my fun for the next year.
I always say this to gain something, you have to lose something. And if you don't do that, then you're not in the right direction. What I did was that I gave up on everything. I gave up on sports. I gave up on literally everything. I just focused on one goal, and that was to pass my USMLE. That is it. 1 year, I was on a hiatus. Nobody knew what I was doing. Nobody saw me ever outside in restaurants and public places. They were like, "Where is she?" Because I was such a socialite. I was such a social person. But when they didn't see me for a year, they were confused. Like, has she died or something? What's wrong? Whatever goal you set, make sure you're detrimental onto that. You have to lose some of the time with your friends, with your favorite sports, maybe with your favorite book, but you can catch up on that after a year. But if this time has passed, then you're not going to get that after a year. So in order to gain
Yeah.
something, you have to lose something. And I just find that is progress. If you're not losing something, then are you actually evolving? So you aren't evolving if you aren't losing anything. So I feel that's really important that make sure you're fixated on one thing. And if you need time off, that sometimes people get burnt out by studying repetitively, then it's fine. Take a day off. It's completely fine. But try to do like that. Okay, you've studied consecutively for 5 days, take a day off.
Yeah, and then my last question is about studying tactics, right? Space repetition is a pretty commonly used tactic, right? Like we have it in our course, and I think other courses also use it. There's also Anki, which lets you make your own space repetition flashcards for free. That's pretty popular. All right. Anything else that we haven't covered today that you would like to make sure that we talk about?
I think we covered most of it.
I'm
Okay.
curious, real quick, before we wrap up. You seemed very self motivated and determined to, take the USMLE in the way that you did. Is there anything, looking back in hindsight that you would have changed that you think would have been beneficial to you?
Yeah, I'm gonna change it. Number one is that I started too late in my journey. Like I took my step one in my final year. If I would have taken it during second year, third year of medical school, then I wouldn't have been going insane in my final year. Do not add a lot of stress to you. I do it in a particular thoughtful timeline. So I think that is what I would have changed. I would have started my USMLE preparation earlier, and so that I do have a lot of information in terms of the match process. Maybe if I would have applied to 70 programs, because of the information I have now, I would have only targeted only 30 to 40 programs. That would have saved me like around $400. So I think, yeah, I would have changed a lot of things in terms of the match process and starting earlier. But I think everything has their own set of time and it's all meant to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much. This has been Board Certified, hosted by Tyler and Cassandra from Achievable with Dr. Hashmi. And Achievable has great online courses for the USMLE Step 1, MCAT, PTCE, and PTE, and others. You can try them out for free at achievable.me.